You were my first students. My family. I wanted you to be free.
When Eric and Julia Lewald, the executive producers and creators behind X-Men '97, stepped onto the stage at the Marvel Animation panel during New York Comic-Con, the energy in the room practically shifted. They were there not only to talk about the show's massive success, but also to finally give fans the release window for Season 2. And because the series has become such a phenomenon since its 2024 debut, the crowd knew the announcement was going to be big. What the Lewalds confirmed was that X-Men '97 Season 2 is officially slated for summer 2026, and they didn't stop there. They also shared that the show has already been renewed for Season 3, which quickly sent waves of excitement across the entire room. Although nothing was publicly released at that exact moment, the panel audience also got to see a surprise trailer for the upcoming season. It wasn't made available online yet, but people who did get to see it said it was packed with high-stakes action and emotional beats that tease an even bolder chapter for the mutants. The trailer revealed the first glimpse of the legendary villain Apocalypse stepping into the animated universe, which is something longtime fans had been hoping to see because of his enormous impact on the X-Men storyline. And it didn't stop with him. Viewers caught sight of Jean and Scott's son as a teenager, which immediately raised questions about how the team's scattered timeline journeys would eventually converge. The creators hinted that Season 2 is meant to lay the groundwork for some massive storylines that will fully blossom in Season 3. Even though some things will naturally evolve, the majority of the original cast and most of the writers are returning, so the tone and emotional heart of the series will stay intact. Considering how explosive the show's debut was in 2024, none of this momentum should really surprise anyone. X-Men '97 became a breakout hit the moment it landed on Disney+. And because it earned a stunning 99% score on Rotten Tomatoes, the highest ever for an MCU-related project, the early renewal makes total sense. It was only natural that Disney would want to keep the mutation train rolling, especially with the show pulling heavily from iconic comic arcs from the 80s and 90s. Some of the storylines that served as inspiration include Uncanny X-Men number 200 from 1985, which dives into Magneto's trial, X-Men number 25 from 1993, which famously pits Wolverine against Magneto, and the 1989 crossover event Inferno, the storyline introducing the Goblin Queen. Because the series leans into these classic moments, fans have been both nostalgic and deeply invested in where the new seasons will go. The Marvel Animation panel didn't just shine the spotlight on the X-Men, though. It also revealed a bunch of updates on other Marvel animated projects. Your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man Season 2 will swing onto screens in fall 2026, and Vision Quest was confirmed as the final entry in a trilogy that began with WandaVision and continued with Agatha all along. Wonder Man is set to premiere on January 27, 2026, and Disney reaffirmed that Daredevil Season 2 is still aiming for a March 2026 release. But before diving too deep into everything that's coming up next, it helps to rewind and look at how Season 1 wrapped things up, because that finale left the characters scattered across time and space in ways that practically guarantee Season 2 will kick off with chaos. After the UN launches the Magneto Protocol, the mission goes horribly wrong and puts the entire planet at risk when asteroid M begins plummeting toward Earth. Professor X manages to repair Magneto's fractured mind just long enough for him to regain control and save the world. But the cost of that heroic act is steep. Magneto's intervention tears Rogue, Storm, Xavier, Logan, Beast, Nightcrawler, and Magneto himself out of their present timeline and drops them in ancient Egypt around 3000 BC. Meanwhile, Jean and Scott get thrown in the opposite direction all the way into the year 3960 AD. There, they meet their son Nathan as a teenager, though he hasn't yet taken on the mantle of Cable, and they also encounter Mother Ascani, who comic fans know is Rachel Summers, their daughter from another timeline. The series then jumps 6 months into the future, where Forge is operating as the last X-Man still present on Earth. Jubilee, Sunspot, and Cable survive the finale's blip-style event, but they're considered missing in action, which sets up a whole separate mystery. Bishop eventually returns from the future after disappearing in Episode 2, and he teams up with Forge to rebuild the next generation of the mutant team. The post-credit scene delivers perhaps the biggest twist of all. On the ruins of Genosha, a shadowy figure lifts one of Gambit's cards from the dirt. It's none other than Apocalypse, also known as En-Sabanur, the ancient mutant warlord, who, earlier in the timeline, introduces himself to the X-Men stranded in ancient Egypt. His arrival creates two layers of dread. First, it confirms that the mutant genocide on Genosha is going to have far-reaching consequences. And second, it teases Gambit's potential resurrection through one of the darkest arcs in the comics, where he becomes one of Apocalypse's four horsemen. Because of that scene, fans immediately began speculating about what Season 2 has in store. Jake Castorina, the supervising producer and head director, hinted to Entertainment Weekly that everything viewers saw in Season 1's finale was meticulously connected to long-term plans. When asked about Gambit's potential transformation, he responded coyly with, "Oh, did something happen with Gambit in the comics? Oh, that's cool," which only added fuel to the fire. Executive producer Brad Winderbaum also teased that Season 2 will introduce additional mutant groups, saying Marvel has many teams that start with X followed by a hyphen, and that at least 2 new X-Men teams will show up. Because of all this setup, it's extremely likely that Gambit's death won't be permanent. The trailer that premiered at New York Comic-Con reportedly contained several shots that made it clear that his essence, or something shaped by Apocalypse, will continue to play a major role. Burned playing cards and bursts of purple kinetic energy appear throughout the footage, hinting at his rebirth in a darker, more twisted form. This follows the popular theory that he'll return as a horseman of the Apocalypse. Considering how emotional his sacrifice was in Season 1, fans are expecting his comeback to be equally dramatic, although possibly heartbreaking in a very different way. Season 2 also seems poised to pull heavily from the adventures of Cyclops and Phoenix, a 1994 comic miniseries that follows Scott, Jean, Nathan, and Mother Ascani in the far future. The presence of Apocalypse in that storyline makes it even more likely that the show is adapting at least part of it. And because the MCU isn't holding back on darker themes, the tone of Season 2 is expected to get significantly more intense. Ross Marquand, who voices Professor X, told Collider that he was stunned by how brutal the scripts were, saying he was amazed Disney greenlit it because it's so dark. It's very, very dark. A lot of people die. With time-lost heroes, resurrected villains, future wars, alternate timelines, and new X-teams ready to emerge, Season 2 is shaping up to be not just a continuation, but a full-blown expansion of the mutant universe. And although fans still have to wait until summer 2026, the pieces being set in motion make it clear that X-Men 97 isn't slowing down anytime soon. And that's that for today's video. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next one.